Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on today's video. I am Cyan if you are new here. Welcome back. I am doing a update video on the cycle syncing method, and we're just going to cut right to the chase. I failed. The reason I think I failed this series is because of a multitude of reasons. One, I chose the wrong time of year. I know myself, and I even said it in part 2's video where I said if I even stay on track, and I definitely was right with that thought process because January, February, and March, the first 3 months of the year, are always the hardest for me. And that is because I deal with a lot of depression, anxiety. They are heightened, especially coming off the holidays and the high of it all and the excitement and all of that. It's just a lot. On top of, you can never guess what your life is going to go through, and something that I said in part 2 was 4 months ago Cyan is so different from then, and 4 months from now Cyan is going to be very different from now. And that was back in December. It is so very true. I was talking to my life coach about it, actually, exactly about that quote, and I said, like, I was so right in that I'm so different than I was even back in December, and I like who I am more so now. It's just so different, and I've learned so much, I've grown so much, and I still am. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue, and I didn't keep up with the cycle syncing method, but I've learned a lot from it. And actually, I can take a spin on this and say these are the reasons why I actually want to reestablish some of these methods and try resyncing my cycle. So going back to the first couple of months of doing this, as you were able to see a full cycle, I will say it was very successful. Previous parts of this video series, I mentioned that I had a very irregular period leading up to the time that I had ended my long-term relationship. And as soon as I did that day that I ended that relationship, I got my period. And ever since that day, I've had pretty consistent cycles. So that was different in and of itself. But I have had some irregularities here and there. It's not very often. It's actually something that I haven't really been able to pinpoint. But I will say when I change slight things, I notice. I was able to before really track it. Like, I knew down to the day. I could rely on my FLO app, and that was very consistent. That was very on the nose. And now it's been a little bit more difficult, and I chalk that up to stress, but also my habits have changed. I want to talk about my food and drink intake. So I'm not sure if I've ever really made this like super public, but I don't drink hardly any caffeine anymore, and I've made that decision. That's been a year-long decision, and that's something that I decided when I noticed it had a huge impact on my anxiety, and which makes complete sense. Obviously, I haven't cut 100% of caffeine out. There's caffeine in other drinks and other foods that is a natural caffeine. I was drinking coffee every single day, and as soon as I cut that out and I noticed a huge difference, I was like, okay, this is gone. I drink decaf coffee now, which again, I know has some caffeine in it, but it's not as potent. I also do not drink a ton of sodas with caffeine in it anymore. I have limited and drawn back in how much alcohol I'm drinking. This was a decision that I chose to make, I would say, late fall time. I just don't drink a ton of alcohol anymore. Again, same reason. I realized that I had a lot of problems to do with my anxiety, but I have been really sober curious. I know that's a trend, but I really have been very sober curious, and I really pay attention to my hormones, the time of month that I am going to be drinking, things that are going on around me. So for instance, I had a couple of different instances where I went out with my friends and had some drinks. This was a while ago, and the next day I had terrible anxiety and exhaustion. I didn't do anything for the rest of the weekend, and the next few days of like work, I was in sluggish sloth mode. That's not very typical of me, and the time of month wasn't the best for me either. It's when I'm more sluggish. But probably in that time frame, in the last 3 months, I've probably drank 4 times, which is not a lot in my book. There were weeks where I was drinking every weekend and a couple of times a weekend, and nothing like concerning, nothing crazy like that. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have an alcohol problem. I just don't want to feel the way that I feel anymore, and I'm very picky, choosy when I do, especially in my latter half, which I call my latter half, it's not, but in my luteal and my menstrual phase, I really don't want to drink in those times. You're already really sluggish and slow and exhausted and hormonal. Your levels of all of your hormones are increasing and decreasing. On top of that, I've talked about it a couple of times before, but I struggle with PMDD. So how I choose to drink is when I'm the most confident and comfortable with drinking. I was drinking the other night and I was technically on my period, but because I wasn't anxious, because I was in an extremely good mood, because I was looking forward to so many things in my future, I was like, I'm drinking. And I did, and I didn't have any symptoms. I think I was tired. I think that was my main and only one, but it wasn't anything detrimental. Like it wasn't, I was still doing things over the weekend. I was a little tired, but nothing crazy. So my favorite part of the cycle syncing method and just the whole like experiment was the food portion. That's the portion that I spent the most time with, and it was so fun because I was eating things and I had snacks and foods on hand that I knew, like in the back of my head, I could go to. So I had a ton of tuna for my ovulation phase, and I had olives, and I was making protein smoothies every morning and really like hearty breakfasts every so often, and I was making sure that I had snacks and like specific types of fruits in my smoothies for specific weeks, and it really made it more fun actually, and I really felt more connected with my body. I felt like I was fueling it in the right ways and I was seeing the results. How do I feel currently? Are my cycles easy to track and predict? So as of today is March 25th when I'm filming this, I feel extremely disconnected from my cycles. I cannot really predict where I'm at. That leads me into the exercise and food. I've not been eating the best. I've been eating really, really poorly, a lot of heavy carb and pastas. Now, I'm not going away from those things wholeheartedly, and I don't intend to go back into like a keto diet, but I do want to pay attention to the good carbs that I'm intaking versus the bad ones and fuel my body with the right things, especially in the right phases. Exercise, I didn't touch. I tried to at certain times, and I'm just not an exercise person. I have weights right over there, and I haven't used them in months. Did do yoga for 2 weeks in the beginning of February, and it was the most relaxing, best sleep I've gotten in a really long time, and for whatever reason I stopped doing it, but it was super, super beneficial, and I highly recommend like trying yoga meditation. I did a 20-minute yoga meditation session before I went to bed every night for 2 weeks during the weekdays, and it was so good. It was so beneficial. It took my mind off of all of the day's stress and all of the things that I was thinking coming up, and really relaxed my body and put me in a really good state of just rest, so then I could go right to sleep. And that's typically what I did. What did I struggle with? So obviously I struggled with staying consistent. The planner. I knew the planner was going to be the worst part of the method and the experience, because I'm pretty sure that it was supposed to be an everyday planner. That's just not realistic for my life. And I think that's not realistic for most people's lives. It just was not a feasible option for me, and I didn't stick with it. I never even looked at it. And so when I fell off, I kind of forgot that I actually created them until I went back to the videos to prepare for this video. Will I continue? Yes. I want to reestablish my routines with little tiny habits of the method. I want to fit them better into my life and my routine. What tips do I have? Catering it towards you and your life and your routines. There's nothing wrong with establishing a new routine. I talked about that in my How to Achieve My Goals in 2023. Just habit stacking and adding new habits to your life, but don't do too many things at once. And that's what I did start doing in the first part of this series. Is I did a little at a time. I focused on the food, and that's really where I want to focus. Incorporating more phase-based foods, snacks, different things like that, and then eventually slowly incorporate different exercises for the specific phases, and definitely reintegrate yoga and meditation. Back to the tips really quick. I think another thing that is really great is planning ahead. So if you know specific things are really good for phases. So turkey is really great for your luteal phase. If you're going to do that, make sure you have turkey on hand. Make sure you have sweet potatoes on hand for, I think it's your ovulatory cycle. Make sure that you have all of the right frozen fruits for your smoothies. Make sure that you have stuff in your freezer prepared. If you're a meal prepper, this is a great thing for you. You can have those things prepped ahead of time, even a month ahead of time, especially if you're a person that deals with heavy PMDD. All in all, I didn't read this book cover to cover. It's not a book that I would read cover to cover. It actually goes over some things that I don't agree with, some things that I think are too incorrect and political on an end of a spectrum that I don't agree with. But I think the basis of foods for your specific phases and where you should be focusing on and how it integrates into your work life and your social life, all of those things were extremely fascinating to me, and I definitely can attest to I am a much more productive person in the follicular and the ovulatory phases than I am in the luteal and the menstrual phases. I am a couch potato in those two phases. I want nothing to do with people. I am much more passionate and driven and focused and productive and motivated in my follicular and my ovulatory phases. I'm so much more social. I can definitely plan for those times. It does have a really good impact when I'm planning things. So I can plan ahead for like, ooh, I'm gonna need an extra patch this week, which I didn't talk about, and I don't have them up here, and I'm so sorry. I will talk about them in a different video. I do have these patches linked down below. They are a lifesaver. I haven't worn a ton of them this last month. I didn't need to, thankfully, but I do have them. I have a sleeve of them downstairs in my bathroom, and I have a sleeve at work just in case. They're a lifesaver when I'm feeling a little extra anxious. The way I can explain it is like foggy and cloudy and overwhelmed, socially claustrophobic is the best way I can explain it. All in all, if you are looking to make your irregular cycles more regular, check out this book. I do recommend it. This will also be linked in my Amazon affiliate links, but it is a good book. There's sections I don't love. There's sections I definitely skipped over. I actually never got to look at any of the recipes, so that's another thing that I would like to do in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful life. I will talk to you in my very next video. Make sure that you are subscribed and turn on your post notification bell Make sure you have all of the notifications turned on because you'll be notified for my videos and my shorts. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming, so make sure that you are subscribed. Thank you guys again. I love you so much. Have a wonderful life, and I will talk to you very, very soon.